Now, freelance writing from home isn't always the laid-back pajama-wearing experience that a lot of people want you to believe. In many regards, it's far more difficult to work from home than it would be to work for a major corporation. And this is usually because you lack accountability. You don't have a boss over your shoulder watching your every move. So, you gotta find ways to motivate yourself to write. Because as a freelance writer working from home, if you're not producing work, you're not getting paid. Well, I'm Michael with WriterSanctuary, and today I'm going to share 11 tips that I use to keep myself motivated to write on a daily basis. Now, these tips work great for me whether I'm writing content or creating YouTube videos. So before we get started, if you want to learn more about freelance writing or any other topics I cover, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell. I try to produce as much as I can, but sometimes I just don't have the time. And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, you can always leave them in the comment section of this video, or you can also hit me up on social media. I usually pay attention to my Twitter and Facebook accounts fairly closely, and don't forget there's also a contact form on WriterSanctuary.com's website. So let's dive into it. My first tip is to find your peak performance time frame. This is the time of the day where you are the most productive. Everybody's different. Some people are able to crack out all kinds of work at night, while some need that early morning rush. For instance, I started writing when I was working for the school district, so most of my content was at night after an 8-hour period. I got a little bit done, but I found that once I moved to the mornings and quit my full-time job at the school district, I was far more productive, just because I was more alert and ready for work. Now, this is what works for me. What works for you might be completely different. So I suggest taking a week or two and working at different time frames and trying to find the moment where you are the most productive. This will take a little bit of trial and error simply because everybody's different and you might have far more energy in the afternoon than I did. My second tip to get motivated to write is to find a way to get yourself energized. It's kind of like psyching yourself up for the day. Most people feel the most energetic first thing in the morning. But then again, I know a lot of people that seem to have far more energy in the afternoon. Again, it kind of flows with the time frame. For me, the first thing I do in the morning is exercise. I find a way to get the heart rate going, and afterwards I feel incredibly good and ready to tackle the day. In fact, studies show how exercise improves productivity overall. Now, something else that a lot of people don't consider is your comfort level. When you're sitting in a chair, you need to be comfortable, because if you're stressed out, it will sap your energy. In fact, I found that after spending $200 on a nice chair as opposed to $25 for a Walmart special made a huge difference in how much work I produced. I wasn't worried about my back, my knees didn't hurt as much. I'm not saying that you need to go out and spend $200 on a chair at Costco, but when you sit and you're working at your desk for extended periods of time, comfort matters. My third tip is to always view yourself as a professional. Now, this is probably one of the most important aspects of anything else on this list, because the greater the professional that you exude, the more likely you are to succeed. Keep this in mind. The moment you accept a single dime from your content, you are a professional writer. It doesn't matter if you've had thousands of articles under your belt or if it's the first one. The moment someone pays you, you become a professional. You got to keep that in mind. So go to the mirror and tell yourself that you are a professional, because you are. An expert in their field may not even see a dime. Professionals are paid for their talents. Another way that I view myself as a professional is to dress for success. I know a lot of people love being able to work in their pajamas, and that might work for them. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people. Now, I don't throw on a suit and business attire, but I will get myself dressed up in business casual, at least whether I'm doing YouTube videos or writing content. That's because it makes me feel good about myself. It makes me feel like a professional. It's all about keeping that mindset. My fourth tip to help with motivation is to set personal goals. Now, since the first time that I started writing content, I set all kinds of goals for myself. I'm a little bit of a geek when it comes to a spreadsheet. At any given time, I can look to see how many words per hour I was writing, all the way up to how much money I was making per year, based on averages throughout the rest of the months. Now, I don't think you should go gonzo like I did with a spreadsheet, but keeping track of certain goals can help you keep focused. Now, when you're setting up your goals, make sure that you're being realistic with them. I mean, it's one thing to say that I want to make $1 million this year as a freelance writer, but there's a good chance you're not going to hit that. And once you start reaching for impossible goals, it starts fueling a sense of setting yourself up for failure. Start off small and just work yourself up. One of the things I do is to break up larger goals into smaller ones. For example, let's say that I want to write 1 million words this year. That breaks down to just over 19,000 words a week. Sounds like quite a bit. Now let's say that I want to focus on a Monday through Friday writing routine. In that case, I only need to write a little over 3,800 words per day. And that right there is far more obtainable than trying to focus on 1 million words this year. Because if I'm able to sustain 3,847 words per day, I'll easily surpass 1 million words by the end of the year. My point is to take a really big goal and break it up into smaller pieces that make it look far easier to achieve. Because even if you broke it down all the way down to the hour, you're still working towards that end goal. And the reason why you do this is because every time you achieve an accomplishment, you feel good about yourself. And the better you feel about yourself, the more likely you're going to keep going. But yeah, I break up the goals into smaller ones all the time for just about everything. My fifth tip is to create a writing atmosphere. Now, what I mean by a writing atmosphere is more of kind of related to comfort. It's like my desk. My desk is usually all kinds of scattered with all kinds of weirdness. But there's days where I'll take the morning and just clean it up, and then I feel more professional and I'm more efficient because I can find the shit that I'm looking for. It makes me feel good and I'm more productive. But when you're creating a writing atmosphere, also pay attention to the temperature and lighting. Studies show that ambient temperature impacts productivity in the workplace. So anything between 70 and 73 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal. And I can speak from experience because as soon as I hit the 72 degree mark, I'm far more productive, I feel better, and I'm less likely to get tired, and it's just great. But like I said, everybody's different, and these are based on averages. You might be able to work in a cooler atmosphere or a hotter one, but the temperature of your room is going to impact your motivation to write. Lighting is another big factor that impacts how people are motivated. Having the right lighting atmosphere in your workspace can make you more productive. My sixth tip is to make sure you remove any distractions. Now this is a major one for me. Like I easily get sucked into YouTube or Netflix on a regular basis. Now everybody's different, so different kinds of distractions are going to influence your work. For some people it's games, other people want to go outside, or you find other things to do. Hell, there's days where I prefer cleaning over working. So find a way to get rid of all the distractions that you possibly can that can take away from your work time. Because before you know it, the day's exhausted and all you did was watch a bunch of videos on YouTube. There's a lot of times I get angry at myself. Which is why I usually try to postpone my YouTube watching until after my time frame of work. My time frame of work is from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Sometimes it goes a little bit longer depending on what I have to do. But I try to refrain from watching any kind of YouTube or video or playing games or anything until after work is done. My seventh tip is to find a way to gamify writing. Now gamification is a trending thing right now in a lot of businesses. This is when you find a way to make mundane chores seem a lot more fun. For me, it's all about setting goals and breaking records and recording all my data in spreadsheets. You may have something else that you find fun. But if you can find a way to gamify your writing experience, whether it's for a novel or for freelance writing, you can keep yourself focused and on task. Because the more you enjoy an activity, the more likely you're going to continue. One of the things I love to do is try to break personal records. Now, usually my personal records include things like the number of words per hour I'll write, or the amount of money that I make in an hour, or even how much time I put in throughout the entire day. Then I take that number and I try to surpass it tomorrow. So even if I write 50 more words tomorrow than I did today, I successfully broke a record. And that's all that really matters. It's not that you have to break it by 1,000 or anything. You can write one more word on top of what you did yesterday and you're still a success. You're still breaking a personal record. Congratulations. So don't try to put yourself in competition with someone like me or someone who's been freelance writing for years and years. It's all about self-improvement and how you can do better for yourself tomorrow. And finding your limits and breaking personal records is a good way to do that. Then you start feeling inspired and empowered and you want to break them again. You get that snowball rolling and you become unstoppable. My eighth tip is using the buddy system. You can often find motivation to write by joining social groups. So you can look on places like Facebook or go to meetups.com. In fact, meetups.com is a great place to go if you want to meet up with people for all kinds of different things. In fact, I'm going to start joining them just for WordPress. In my area alone, there's specifically like 7 or 8 different writing meetup groups. And they cover everything from freelancing to creative writing. There's a bunch of poetry ones in Denver. But once you join writing groups and start interacting with other people that have a like-minded mindset, you can start bouncing ideas off each other and inspiring each other to do better. I find that I get quite a bit of inspiration by going to word camps, just simply listening to the speakers. Now, using Twitter isn't bad, but it often takes away from the impact of interpersonal connection, and it's not nearly as potent as like a Facebook group or going to Reddit or definitely meetups.com. Because it's that social interaction that can get you motivated and jazzed and energized. In fact, I believe networking is so prominent that I'm debating on adding a social platform onto WriterSanctuary.com specifically for freelance writers. But yeah, don't be afraid to join a local community or a meetup group and get yourself out there and share ideas and promote your name. because you never know who you're going to meet at these things. You could come across a client that wants to throw all kinds of work your way just because you demonstrate that you're a writer. My ninth tip is to share on social media. And one of the major reasons why I built WriterSanctuary.com and started sharing on social media was to help infuse some of that sense of accountability. See, when I have bloggers come into the website or people watching the YouTube channel and I don't produce content, it makes me feel bad, like I'm letting them down. So it motivates me to create more content. Unfortunately, sometimes I'm just way too busy and can't do it, but I still feel bad about it. But it's that whole accountability through social connections that what drives me to do what I do. It's all about not letting your audience down. Now I know you can't really share on social media what you're doing for a client, but you can always post something like, I'm writing so many words for clients today. And if people are paying attention, then you have accountability in some degree. And don't forget, it's never too early to market yourself as a professional on social media. In fact, that's how I got the client that I have today, is through LinkedIn. So sites like Facebook aren't necessarily specifically for memes. Now my 10th tip for getting motivation to write is to always set aside time for taking a break. Because if you try to push yourself way too hard and you start putting in hour after hour after hour without taking time to relax and clear your mind, you're going to stress yourself out. And the more stressed you become, the less productive you are. You're also far more likely to make mistakes, and it just makes for a miserable experience. And when you start feeling miserable as a freelance writer or a blogger or even a vlogger, you start caring about creating the content and you give up. So don't forget to take breaks. Personally, I try to take a break every hour, hour and a half, mostly because my knee starts to hurt and I have to get up and stretch anyway. So I take 10 minutes to walk around the yard or go around the neighborhood, or sometimes I'll do laundry or some house chores, just something to get away from the desk and get myself up and moving. Besides, when you come back to it, you have a far more clear mind and you're able to focus greater on the project you were doing. Even if you don't feel accomplished, take a few minutes out of your day and realize that if you don't unwind, you're going to stress out. Then my 11th tip, and probably one of the more important on this list, is to realize that you're not failing. Nothing is ever truly a failure as long as you learn from the experience. If you don't get as much done today, take a few notes as to why and what happened and try to improve tomorrow. Take each day one at a time and just strive to do better. Because once you start feeling as a failure, you're less likely to put in the effort and motivation to write. Just strive for self-improvement, even if it's the slightest thing. Like I said earlier, just even typing one word more tomorrow than you did today, that's an improvement. Like I tell my kids, any victory is still a victory. So what kind of things do you do to get motivation to write every day? Leave it in the comments down below. This list is something that I use all the time. It doesn't always work out like I'd hope every day because situations, but these 11 things run through the back of my mind and they keep me focused and going as often as possible. I'm not saying that I'm the most successful person on YouTube, far from it. But that's not what it's all about. It's all about finding motivation for yourself and self-improvement. So if any of these tips help you in any way, that's all that really matters. But if you enjoyed the video, hit the like button. If you want to learn more about freelance writing, WordPress, Text Broker, WordCamp, or anything else that I cover, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to hit the notification bell. I think that's going to do it for me today. Happy writing, and I'll see you tomorrow.